Hello and welcome to More About Tech. Today I'll be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy Watch that I've been wearing for about 3 months now. If you like this video, then please like and subscribe. I'm planning my next video to be about the best apps that I've found for this smartwatch. Let's jump into the pros and cons of the Samsung Galaxy Watch. There are some pros that sets it far apart from its competitors, and there are some cons that the competitors do way better. Today I'm going to go through that list, and hopefully you'll have a good idea of whether or not you want to buy this watch. The number one reason that I decided to stay with this watch versus returning it is because of its battery life. Most watches that I researched only had about 1 day or less than 1 day of lifetime. I'm not the kind of person that wants to take my watch off every night and set it up. I never remember those kind of things. This watch, however, I am getting 3.5 to about 4 days of battery life on each charge. One thing that I did discover is that when you first get the watch, it'll only last about a day. It's enough to make you almost send it back. But if you let the watch sit and charge overnight, then I don't know if the watch recalibrates or what, but eventually it'll last about 3.5 to 4 days on each charge. However, in order to get to 3 to 4 days of battery life, I had to turn off the always on display, and unfortunately to me that's kind of annoying, but like I say, I don't want to have to charge this watch every single night. I'm not going to remember. It's hard enough to remember to do my phone. Pro number 2 is Samsung Health. I have been a long-time user of Samsung Health on my Samsung phones. I love the Samsung Health app just because of the data that it contains. One really nice thing about the watch is it integrates very nicely into Samsung Health. It does the step count. It has GPS built into it to where you can actually track your maps without needing GPS on your phone. It auto tracks workouts just like your phone does. It does from step count to heart rate monitor. You can have it set to always on heart rate monitor, which I would say would drain your batteries, or you could, mine is personally set to every 10 minutes, which is the default if I remember right. It also contains a sleep tracker where it keeps up with your sleep hours and minutes. I haven't found it to be super accurate, but it's kind of interesting because it gives you an idea of how well you're sleeping, how long you slept. It also includes factors of whether you was moving or wrestling around in your sleep. However, there is another disadvantage to the health tracker, which we'll get in the cons list. To me, when I looked for watches, it was very important to be able to be waterproof. I didn't want to have to worry about if I needed to just jump in the shower or forgot to take it off when I washed my hands or played in the water. This watch, however, Samsung reports is waterproof. Test it yourself. I've never had a problem with getting it wet. However, the screen doesn't seem to work well when it gets wet, as most devices do. Personally, one of my choices that made me go towards the Samsung Galaxy Watch, the newest one they offer, was the look of the watch. I wanted it to look like a real watch and not look like a fake watch. One of the disadvantages that I said earlier is in order to get the battery life, have the always on display off, and that doesn't make it look like a super real watch. But whenever you have some of the higher quality watch faces on, and if you do have it set to always on display, then it almost resembles a real watch. Speaking of watch faces, one of the reasons why I do like the Samsung Galaxy Watch is its selection of watch faces. A lot of them you have to pay maybe $1 for, but me, when I find a good watch face, I typically stick with it for a long time. So $1 for a watch face to last me a few months, not a big deal. I have even seen some watch faces that actually interact with the heart rate monitor, and as your heart beats in real time, the heart on the watch face beats. It's kind of interesting to see, but I don't see it something that I would stick with. It just was neat. For my next pro, one thing that I really do like about this watch, I don't use it very often. I don't really have much of a need for it, but when it is there, it's very handy. There's been times where I haven't been able to reach for my phone, or my hands are full and someone's calling me, needing me fairly quickly. I can just reach right down to the bezel and spin the bezel, and it'll answer the phone right through the watch. And I just hold the watch up a little closer. I haven't had anybody say they can't hardly hear me, so it seems to do a pretty good job. Speaking of that spinning bezel, that's my next pro. One thing that I do love about this watch that most watches, I haven't ever seen another watch that does it, is the spinning bezel. The bezel is a lot easier to use than using the tiny watch face. It seems more accurate sometimes, whereas when you have your finger in the way, it's hard to read, such as reading email notifications or messages or anything like that. It kind of makes a nice little clicking sound. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes when I'm in boring meetings, I find myself sitting there spinning it. It's a habit I'm trying to break myself of. Another thing that I love about this watch is the Find My Phone feature. If I can't find my phone, I know it's pretty close. As long as I'm in Bluetooth reach, or they both have Wi-Fi or some type of, your phone has LTE and your watch has Wi-Fi. You just push a couple buttons on your phone and your phone will start ringing. No matter what volume your phone is at, your phone will start ringing and you should be able to find it. There are many more pros to this watch that I didn't get to list in this video, but there are also some cons too. But for the most part, the battery life is what outweighed all the cons for me. Some of them are kind of big and it almost made me question whether I wanted to keep it or not. But whenever I got to weighing on the battery life, the cons really didn't outweigh it. The number one con that I have about this watch is the fact that this watch would have been almost completely perfect. One of the biggest cons of this watch is the fact that they did not include Wear OS in this watch model. There was a lot of speculation that it would have Wear OS in it before the model was released, but whenever it actually came out, they announced that it would have a new version of Tizen. I do not like the Tizen OS at all. That is Samsung's basically Wear OS for the watch. It's not that the OS is that horribly bad. It's the fact that they do not include any Google apps in their OS, which means you don't have Google Play, you don't have any of the apps that other people would have with their watch. So that means it's lacking a lot of features, if you will say, that comes through software. So that also brings me to my next con, which is the app choices for this watch. There is hardly any good app choices. Most of the apps in the Galaxy App Store are rated very low star. A lot of them were created years ago for older watches, but yet it still lets you install it for this watch. They become incompatible, so you just get an error. The developer has left them to the side and they're not updated anymore. So a lot of the apps in the store just error out or is basically crap. That's the reason why I wish they would have included the Wear OS, because you have big developers who develop for the Wear OS by default, and it would have just been included in this watch. But you don't get that option with this watch. To me, this was the biggest flaw of this watch, and I really hope in the future models that they do come out with the Wear OS. And don't forget about the video that I said I had coming up, where I will go through the best apps that I have found for this watch and the most useful ones. Some of them are even just funny time wasters. So I'm a big user of Microsoft Outlook app for my Android phone. I get the notifications on my watch. One thing that I do not like about it is I get tons of alerts throughout the day. So typically I'll just glance at my watch and let it go away. And then at the end of the day, I will go through and swipe the notification away on my watch, because I know all of them are just alerts. And when I do this, it breaks up all the notifications on my phone as separate notifications. And in doing that, it actually makes the sound that I'm getting a new email for every email. So if I had 50 emails, which happens sometimes during maintenance windows at my work, then I will get 50 notifications again on my phone. It does not do it on the watch, however. Very annoying, but I feel like that's something that could be fixed in a bug release later on. Another con of this watch, it's not really a big one, but it does get kind of annoying. It's about the Samsung Health app that I talked about earlier. The watch, for some reason, sometimes thinks I've climbed 50 flights of stairs within a 10-minute span just sitting at my desk or at home. I don't have 50 flights of stairs to climb at home. I've yet to find a definite reason, but it seems to be more often when I've got the watch wet, such as leaving it on in the shower, but it's not 100%, so I'm not exactly sure what's causing it. Let me know if anybody else doesn't have this problem. Maybe it's just something with my watch, but it's just one of those metrics that I never really care anything about, so I just learn to ignore it. As every once in a while though, I'll get notifications that I've climbed the most stairs I've ever climbed, even though I've maybe climbed 1 or 2 flights the entire day. So another very annoying thing that aggravates me about this watch, it's something I've kind of learned to deal with, I guess, but when you first get the watch you'll definitely notice it, is sometimes when I flick my wrist, it doesn't always come on 100% of the time, probably around 90%, but it can get very annoying, especially when you're trying to show the watch off to your friend or something and it doesn't come on, or you're just trying to glance at something real quick. One thing I did learn to get away around this was turning on the setting where the watch always turns on when I get a notification. That way, if it doesn't detect my RIC list, then it's still on anyway. Another annoying thing is when I'm laying in bed, the watch will not come on when I flick my wrist because I'm laying sideways, but typically it seems to come on in my face when I don't want it to. So that concludes today's pros and cons list of the Samsung Galaxy Watch. Overall, I think it's a really good watch. I have run it through the test. I've hit it on things as I walk through the hallway on accident. I've hit it on doorknobs. So far, I don't see really any scratches on it. But to me, the pros completely outweigh the cons. That's why I still have it 3 months later. I didn't return it. I think it looks way better than most smartwatches. It lasts 2 to 3 times longer, if not 4 at some watches. So overall, I think it's a good watch. I will put the link in the description below to the one that I have. But I do want to say thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And don't forget about those videos that I have coming up where I'm going to show you the best Galaxy Watch apps that I could find in the App Store. Just subscribe many times so you don't miss that. Walking through the wall.